Hi everybody, I'm Diana.
And I'm Dave.
And we're the Atkinsons. Well, here we are, we're all cuddled up in our jammies. What you say we do something special?
What do you say we read a story?
Okay, let's read a story. How about we read The Crippled Lamb by the author Max Lucado. We think you'll enjoy this story. It's very special. Once upon a time in a sunny valley, there lived a little lamb named Joshua. He was white with black spots, black feet, and sad eyes. Josh felt sad when he saw the other lambs with snow-white wool and no spots. He felt sad when he saw other sheep with their moms and dads because he didn't have a mom or dad. But he felt saddest when he saw the other lambs running and jumping because he couldn't. Josh had been born with one leg that didn't work quite right. He was crippled. He always limped when he walked. Let's take a look at Josh. There he is. There, you can see him. He's kind of a cutie.
He is.
That's why he always watched while the other lambs ran and played. Josh felt sad and alone, except when Abigail was around. Abigail was Josh's best friend. She didn't look like a friend for a lamb. She was an old cow. She was brown with white blotches that looked like rain puddles on a path. Her belly was round as a barrel, and her voice was always kind and friendly. Some of Josh's favorite hours were spent with Abigail. Do you want to see what Abigail looks like? There she is. She looks like a nice cow.
Yes.
They loved to pretend they were on adventures in distant lands. Josh liked to listen to Abigail tell stories about the stars. They would spend hours on the hill looking into the valley. They were good friends. But even with a friend like Abigail, Josh still got sad. It made him sad to be the only lamb who could not run and jump and play in the grass. That's when Abigail would turn to him and say, "Don't be sad, little Joshua. God has a special place for those who feel left out." That's true.
It is. It's very true.
Josh wanted to believe her, but it was hard. Some days he just felt alone. He really felt alone the day the shepherds decided to take the lambs to the next valley where there was more grass. The sheep had been in this valley so long, the ground was nearly bare. All the sheep were excited when the shepherd told them that they were going to the new meadow. Do you like to see the shepherds? There they all are. As they prepared to leave, Josh hobbled over and took his place on the edge of the group. But the others started laughing at him. "You're too slow to go all the way to the next valley. Go back, slowpoke. We'll never get there if we have to wait on you. Go back, Joshua."
That's not very nice.
That's when Josh looked up and saw the shepherd standing in front of him. "They're right, my little Joshua. You'd better go back. This trip is too long for you. Go spend the night in the stable." Josh looked at the man for a long time. Then he turned slowly and began limping away. That's the shepherd telling him to go spend his evening in the stable. When Josh got to the top of the hill, he looked down and saw all the other sheep headed toward the green grass. Never before had he felt so left out. A big tear slipped down out of his eye and rolled down his nose and fell on a rock. Just then he heard Abigail behind him, and Abigail said what she always said when Josh felt sad. "Don't be sad, little Joshua. God has a special place for those who feel left out. Slowly the two friends turned and walked to the stable together. And there they are, and there are the sheep and the shepherd going to the other, and there's Abigail and Joshua. By the time they got to the barn, the sun was setting like a big orange ball. Josh and Abigail went inside and began to eat some hay out of the feed box. They were very hungry, and they tasted good. For a little while, Joshua forgot that he had been left behind. "Go to sleep, little friend," Abigail said after she finished eating. "You've had a long, hard day." Josh was tired, so he lay down in the corner on some hay and closed his eyes. He felt Abigail lie down beside him, and he was glad to have Abigail as a friend. Soon Josh was asleep. At first, he slept soundly, curled up next to Abigail's back. In his sleep, he dreamed. He dreamed of running and jumping just like the other sheep. He dreamed of long walks with Abigail through the valley, and he dreamed of being in a place where he never felt left out. Suddenly, strange noises woke him up. There they are. I wonder what happened. "Abigail," he whispered, "wake up, I'm scared." Abigail lifted her big head and looked around. The stable was dark except for a small lamp hanging on the wall. "Somebody is in here," Joshua whispered. They looked around the dimly lighted stable. There, lying on some fresh hay in the feed box, was a baby. A young woman was resting on a big pile of hay beside the feed box. My goodness. Joshua looked at Abigail, thinking his friend could tell him what was going on. But Abigail was just as surprised as Joshua. Do you want to see? Look. There they are, and there's the baby. It's pretty exciting. Josh looked again at the woman and the child, then limped across the stable. He stopped next to the mother and looked into the baby's face. The baby was crying. He was cold. The woman picked up the baby and put him on the hay next to her. Josh looked around the stable for something to keep the baby warm. Usually there were blankets, but not tonight. The shepherds had taken them on their trip across the valley. See, there's Josh looking at the baby. How exciting. Then Josh remembered his own soft, warm wool. Timidly, he walked over and curled up close to the baby. "Thank you, little lamb," the baby's mother said softly. Soon the little child stopped crying and went back to sleep. At about that time, a man entered the stable carrying some rags. "I'm sorry, Mary," he explained. "This is all the cover I could find." "It's okay," she answered. "This little lamb has kept the new king warm." A king? Joshua looked at the baby and wondered who he might be. "His name is Jesus," Mary spoke as if she knew Joshua's question. "God's son. He came from heaven to teach us about God." Look, everybody.
There he is.
There he's keeping baby Jesus warm. And there's Mary. There. Wow, I think Joshua got to be in the best part.
I think he did.
Just then, there was another noise at the door. It was the shepherds, the ones who had left Joshua behind. Their eyes were big and they were excited. "We saw the bright light and heard the angels," they began. When they saw Joshua next to the baby, "Joshua, do you know who this baby is?" He does know. It was the young mother who was speaking. She looked at Joshua and smiled. "God has heard your prayers, little lamb. This little baby is the answer." How exciting. Joshua looked down at the baby. Somehow he knew this was a special child, and this was a special moment. He also understood why he had been born with a crippled leg. If he had been like the other sheep, he would have been in the valley. But since he was different, he was in the stable, among the first to welcome Jesus to the world.
And there he is.
How wonderful. He turned and walked back to Abigail and took his place beside his friend. "You were right," he told her. "God does have a special place for me." Wow!
What a nice story.
Joshua got to be at the birth of Jesus. How
We
exciting!
got to welcome him into the world.
So, folks, this story was The Crippled Lamb, again by the author Max Lucado. And Dave and I would like to wish you all
A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Bye now, everybody.
Bye-bye.